हाँ सर। बोलो सर, बोलो। Hi, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay, so all the participants who've joined us so far, we are just about to begin in another 1 minute's time. So I'll be requesting and urging all of you to kindly switch off your video phones and put your devices on the mute because we wouldn't want any kind of disturbance while the session is going on. We have our keynote speaker who's just about to join in a while. In the meantime, we'll be requesting all of you to please switch off your video and put the devices on silent. We would appreciate you complying and cooperating with everything. Thank you so much for joining in once again.
So, ma'am,
Just,
our
just to let
speaker
you
is
all
live.
know, this is the last day of our webinar. And in case whatever questions you have that you would like to put across to our speaker, you can mention the same in the chat box below. Okay, I think we're good to go. Yash, I'm starting.
Yes, ma'am, yes.
All right, a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Prajakta Bhagat. I am a live host and a presenter. I welcome all of you to Drishyam 2K20, the Global HR Connect webinar series, day 4, in conjunction with ACBM Global Mentor Academy. Thank you once again for joining in and taking your valuable time and gracing and beautifying this evening with your presence and adding more value to it. This has been an initiative in order to curate a series and a platform for escalating your highest of potential and for adding more value to your professional life. Talking about that, amidst today's uncertain and gloomy days, a lot of us are wondering and looking for new avenues and breakthroughs to break the chain of COVID 19 and pave the path for the future to climb up the ladder. Hence, our today's topic will cater to talk about concerns around the very relevant issues, that is, today's world of work for new hires and being productive as a virtual employee. We have somebody who is absolutely dynamic. She is an absolute woman of substance, beautiful inside out. May I please invite our speaker for today, Ms. Shalini Joshi, co-founder and chief executive officer, BizCare Consulting. Welcoming you.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing good, thank you.
So
Thank you
good
for
to see you.
welcome.
All right, just for the viewers and our participants, I would like to run through her profile, her brief profile. She is a co-founder and CEO of BizCare Consulting. She has
It's
led digital
actually
transportation.
BizCore.
Sorry,
It's actually BizCore Consulting.
BizCore, right. She is the founder and CEO of BizCore Consulting. She has led digital transportation, many Fortune 500 companies, including Microsoft, Boeing, T-Mobile, Progressive Insurance, and many more. She's recognized for exceptional developing and mentoring high performance work teams. She is competent and experienced in coaching and leading cross functional teams in ambiguous fast paced environment. Once again, thank you so much for being on board in such a short duration. We are truly humbled with your presence and we've been looking forward to hear from you. So I would want to know, how is the quarantine treating you so far, and how has been your experience been so far, working from home, trying to adapt and be receptive towards the new normal?
It is definitely daunting for sure. I'm used to working from home, so the environment was not. I didn't think that it would be so challenging. But the thing is, when I was used to working from home, or when working from home is a norm in companies or in an environment that you live in, you have generally certain support systems, right? Your kids go to school, there is a routine. But nowadays, because of COVID-19, the kids are at home, everybody is at home, it's really difficult to manage. There is definitely overwhelmingness of amount of work, both from home and from work. I miss the human interaction for sure, the water cooler chats. I really miss that. So it is fun, and at the same time it's overwhelming, and I don't know what's good. It's been, I mean, it started off really bad here in Washington initially. We did have many first few cases, so it was really scary and daunting, not letting kids go to school. Didn't know what really was the right thing to do, but I guess we are getting used to it. I hope we just don't get used to it forever. we want
Absolutely.
the, we want the
Yeah,
normal, whatever that might be.
yeah. Absolutely. So, ma'am, would you like to talk a bit about your journey that you've had so far? How did the inception begin? What made you carve a niche for yourself, and how was it initially? And what has helped you to be wherever you are to reach the level that you are in your professional career right now? Would you like to just give a little gist about that?
Sure. So I have a very diverse background, both from education and from a professional standpoint. I did my master's in clinical psychology, and
Oh,
then
wow.
and then when I moved here in US, I did my master's in computer science by accident. It
Okay.
wasn't a planned thing. It was more like, I saw some of my friends and my husband take some courses, and I was just curious. So out of curiosity, because it was funny, like majority of the time I would see them do their homework, and it was more like copy paste. So I was like, this is simple, man. It's just copy paste. So I
Hmm.
started doing that and just tinkering with it, and the interest grew, and I just decided to take it further. But even though on paper the combination may look weird, it's actually not that weird if you think about it, because all the solutions that we develop, all the problems that we try to solve, all the companies that are out there are human centric, right? We're going towards human centric design. So you have to think as a human, even if you're doing AI or you're doing digital transformation, whatever those problems might be. So it really, both my degrees have helped me in my success. It has, I mean, I also tend to get really bored very fast. So I change industries. I have moved from,
Yeah, it does. I have heard that from so many experts and so many industry stalwarts. Like we always say that you should follow your heart and realize your calling and passion. But when you feel that something is getting stagnant and monotonous, that's like a sign. You should
yes,
try and experiment with something at any
yes.
point in your career. And I think that's a great message. I mean, coming that from somebody like you who hails a degree in psychology and did something that was completely off the stream. I think that'll be really inspiring for a lot of people who are probably wanting to make a shift in HR career, no matter whatever stream they belong to.
Yes, I mean, I recently did my HR certification. Very recently, actually, a few months ago, I completed my last course. I feel that you need to be a lifelong student if you want to succeed in life. You have to constantly challenge yourself, otherwise, you become bloated. And if you're bloated, you become stagnated, and then you get outdated really, really fast. So it doesn't matter what your passion is or what your interest is, or even if you're remotely curious, just go ahead and do it. Maybe you'll find something that you never thought you would do, and that may be your calling. So it is, lifelong learning is something that is really important for you to succeed in your career, whatever that might be.
Absolutely. Thank you for just throwing some light on that wonderful journey that you've had. I'm sure it's been an
Sure.
incredible and roller coaster journey so far. I believe that you have a presentation to run through
Yeah.
to give a little brief understanding and to elaborate more about your field. Would you like to go ahead with that?
Yes, please. I think I sent it to you guys. Do you want to share it, or did you want me to do it?
You could share it from your screen. I'm just going to coordinate with the admin in the meantime if there is any error or technical issue, so we can
Okay,
rectify that.
let me pull that up. Let me know if you're able to see it.
Yes. Could you zoom it a bit?
Is it better?
Yes.
All right. So I wanted to pick a topic because working from home, working virtually, working, just working right now is is a challenge, right? Just
Yes,
doing everything
absolutely.
is a challenge. So I wanted to pick a topic that is really, really relevant to us.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, in IT industry, it is pretty okay to be remote. But there are so many industries, like when you are a healthcare officer, or when you are a doctor, or a yoga instructor. I mean, we have all become virtual now. Everybody is a virtual, virtual Zoom
Yeah.
user. And so recently, I mean, I was looking at some interesting stats about how many people are using Zoom, although there are many options available, like, Teams. Um, some people still use Skype. But then there's Zoom, and Zoom has been like, it just came out of nowhere and it took up the market. So in March, I saw that there were about 200 million users who started to use Zoom, and by end of April there were about 300 million daily meetings happening, which is like just phenomenal if you think about it. 300 million meetings daily happening just exploded my head. As companies are adopting to full-time remote work, we are seeing like more and more leaders, even the so-called there is a term that we use jokingly, like, these people are lifers, or people who just stay in a particular company for like 20, 30 years, people who are old school. Even they are using, who are skeptic, are using remote work and using Zoom to connect to virtual town hall meetings, to connect to their employees. I mean, we are using, online. I mean, we were used to like online transactions, banking, shopping, paying bills, pretty boring, but we never thought that, we would celebrate someone's birthday on Zoom. We never thought we would meet our newborn nieces, nephews, even our kids, some of our kids meeting their grandparents virtually, and sometimes even saying final goodbyes to our loved ones, virtually, because you can't enter into the hospital, or it's just not safe to go outside. So I mean, this has become like a weird morphed reality for us, right? We are there but not there, but they're continuously connected. So it's kind of a very weird reality. And the whole dynamic, professional dynamic, has changed when you enter into the workforce and you are interviewing as a new hire. Your interview process has changed. Like across generations, we agree that nothing can replace that in-person meeting. Even if you're texting or going over the email or chatting, that in person, that sense of I can see you in person and be there and shake your hand, you cannot replace that. We were comfortable initially when I remember my first interview when that happened. I had my phone interview and I felt really weird, like about 20 years ago when I had my interview. I didn't know how to, like, how my answers were reacting. How did that person react to my answers? Were they upset? Were they frowning? Are they busy? Can they focus? It was really hard, that very first experience. But we slowly got used to, like, initially the recruiter is going to call you, and then they set up that in-person interview, and you were okay with one of those kinds of mode. But now, because of the situation, you have virtual live interviews where it could be a panel interview, a one-on-one interview. Sometimes there are pre-recorded interview, which is like, this just takes the human out of it. It's a script, and you're supposed to answer certain questions, and as you progress, the questions changed, where it's an interaction of machine and a human being. Sometimes the employers don't even want to look at your resume. They want you to give them a video resume, which is another very weird. Just looking into a camera and just talking about yourself, coming up with these questions that are pre-sent to you. It's kind of daunting and removes that. It can be intimidating. Just sitting there, just recording yourself can be intimidating. There are sometimes their interviews are gamified, so they'll send you a link, and I believe, like, Hilton does that. They'll have real life scenarios and you have to walk through, and they monitor how you react to it, and those are your responses. So the employers try to make it as real as possible, but these are some of the things. So as the times are changing, so are the interviews. Whether we are comfortable or not, it doesn't matter. Life's moving on and we just have to catch up. And most employers, trust me, everybody understands that it's uncomfortable, it's daunting, but that's the reality. And because that's a reality, we accept it, and people are, understanding. Sorry, I think I went backwards. um, so once you go through the interview process, you get hired. Now what? How do I say today? You tell me that, okay, Shalini, we hire you today in our company. Now what? I'm here, you're there. How do you onboard me? Again, that's a very daunting process. Virtual or not, you need to develop relationship with your teams, right? And that's the only way you can succeed with in your role. You have to have relationship with your clients, your customers, your stakeholders, your team members, your managers. That it all boils down to, no matter how intelligent you are, you could be the best programmer, you could be the best developer, a financer. You still got to have relationship. Everything boils down
Absolutely.
to relationship management. So there are certain principles that are unchanged. You still need to understand, whether virtual or not, you still need to understand what's the expectation of your role in the first 30 days. You need to understand, because there is no more water cooler area. You can't connect virtually by just walking up to your coworker. You can't meet them in the hallway or go for a lunch. So you still need to define what the expectation is. It becomes even more important for you to define what is the expectation of your role in the first 30 days is. Then you need to work with your manager to make sure that there is a complete understanding between you and your manager, what your 30, 60, 90-day plan is. And if somebody wants one of these as a template, you can reach out to me. But you need to create this 30, 60, 90-day plan to be successful. You also need to understand what the tools, processes, and policies are of your company. So say, for example, you work quite a lot with government agencies. There are policies in place where you cannot accept certain gifts, or you cannot give something which is, has to be in a contained amount of dollars or rupees. There are certain actions that are considered kickbacks even if it's unintentional, right? So you need to really, or if you're working in a large conglomerate, an international company, what are the different places your company is placed, because each country has different rules. And then you have your organizational rules, not just the government policies. So it's really important to understand what are the tools and processes. When I say tools, it's the tools, the software tools that you use at work. So it may be like Tableau, your Workday, things like that. It takes time when you are virtual to understand how the process works or how the tools work. Sometimes you can do Google, but sometimes you do have questions, right? How do I make a table, or how do I pull in this information? So things like that, reach out to your team members. Generally, a manager, and I have a second slide which I talk about the managers, what they should be doing. So really understanding your tools, processes, and policies is important. Learning the culture of the team. Now, as a brand new member, you really need to understand. You may ask this question during your interview as to what the culture of the team is, and you will get some sense throughout your interview what the culture of the team is. Is it top heavy? Is it collaborative? Is it more of like you shall follow me, things like that? You will get that sense. But even then, reach out to your coworker who may be assigned as a mentor to you. Reach out to them, ask them a blunt question. What is the culture of the team? How do you like this team? Who are the key players? So you can have those understanding. Reach out to your core stakeholders. Even if your manager introduces you to them, you should make a habit to like have a weekly meeting with them, or so that you have a personal connection with them. Understand properly the nature of your job. Does it require you to reach out more often? Because there are some clients where internally they don't see eye to eye, and you have to reach out to them in order to coddle them, or in order to make them happy, because there are some there are trust issues. You won't find that in an interview, but as you start working, you will realize that some clients are more upset than the others, the internal external customers, right? So reach out to that. This is like, as an employee, these are my actions that I should be doing to make myself successful. um, uh, Okay. As managers, again, from manager side, it requires a lot of planning, coordination, and proper tools to make sure that the employee who I'm hiring is successful, right? I want them to be successful because I want them to help me succeed in my company. Whoops, sorry about that. um, we first thing I need to do is make sure that we agree upon the start date. I make sure that I understand the company policies, whether because of COVID-19 or without, or because you are just a very virtual employee. You are in India, I'm in US. Is my company okay bringing shipping you the device, or is it okay for you to bring your own device, right? How does the device setup going to happen? Am I going to let my employees set up their own device over conference? They can access cloud and download all the tools, or am I shipping you the device with pre-configured tools and stuff loaded, right? I want to make sure that the credentials are set up. So the first day when you come in, everything that you need to have access to, you have access to. I mean, the first day, I remember my first job when I joined, I didn't even have a pen. My pen was not working, and my phone was not working. It was my first job here, and I was so intimidated by that. And I was like, oh my God, is that an omen? Am I going to get fired? Because this sucks. Nothing works. Uh, and because I was in person, I could go down, talk to the system administrator, get a loaner laptop, sit at my coworker's shoulder and oversee what they're doing, job shadow them, and start getting um, sort of get an understanding of what my job is. The first day I could just do that, but you can't do that virtually, right? You don't have that luxury. You can't sit behind my shoulder and see what I'm doing. So it really behooves a manager to ensure that they do this proper planning so the employee is set up for success. They just don't sit and wonder now what. That's not very good. It is very important as a manager to make sure that you have a right mentor, right, who is maybe similar in age or maybe very smart, or when I say smart, as in being able to use the tools around, has the experience of the company for some time, knows what the ins and outs are. They are able to communicate well with the new employee, right? So all those things matter. You need to make sure that there is a mentor who is available to this person sometime, and you have to make sure that you choose the right person. There are times when people are not very social, so it's important to understand that when you're choosing a mentor, you have the correct person who is able to socialize well. Some people are introverts and they don't like to be disturbed. So as a manager, I need to know what my team dynamics are, so I can set up the right people along to bring in the success. And then training, right? We all have trainings the first day of our job. There are certain things, whether it is code of conduct, things like that. You need to have those trainings set up properly, predetermine the dates, when they start, when they end. You need to be able to configure them should there be any network issues and the employee is unable to do those trainings. So make sure that you set them up correctly for that. And then work with the employee for the goals and expectations, right? They need to understand what their 30, 60, 90-day plan is. There shouldn't be any surprises between the manager and the employee. It should be very seamless, very transparent, so that you both are setting each other up, supporting each other up, and making sure that we are setting each other up for the success. It is also my responsibility as a manager to ensure that the team that I introduce the new team member virtually, and then I also introduce them to the core stakeholders. Zoom meetings are great. Yes, I'll send out an email talking about them, their background and everything. Some people may have met them during the interview, but it is really important to have that FaceTime to ensure people can put the face to the name. And then of course the fun thing, you should set up a virtual lunch if you guys are all in the same time zone, to make sure that you have a virtual lunch People get to set up, get to socialize. We in our teams, what we do is we have there is a social thread on the side, and that's called a hangout room. We just named it hangout room because you want to take a break, so you go there, you post something funny, and you come back. So that's like your water cooler, your virtual thing. Introduce the new employee to that, so that it's not just work. Here, this is the play area, this is the work area. I mean, try to create as much sort of the real live work environment could be if you were working with me together. I mean, these are some of the things that a manager needs to do to make sure that they are set up correctly. Now, as a manager, you set me, as a new employee, I set you up correctly. How do I become productive now, right? I got the interview, I got the job, I got access to the computers, I am set up all the systems. Now what? How do I become productive, right? The very first few days, it's very important. The first 90 days are very important for any employee to make their mark in the company, right?
Absolutely.
So how do I become productive? The first 2 3 days, people kind of give you slack, that yeah, the network issues, yeah, you're onboarding, things are slow and all, but you got to pick up. You got to pick up and you show what that is. So virtual work needs a lot more discipline than in-person work, right? You need to set up a calendar. So by that, what I mean is, I'll give you my schedule. I generally work from 6:30 a.m. in the morning to 3:30 p.m. That's my regular schedule. So I wake up around 4 in the morning. I tend to, even though when I'm working virtually, I tend to keep that. I know I can sleep in 1 extra hour, but it's very important to keep that routine. I know I don't have to go travel, but that 1 hour is necessary for me to tell myself when I get out of bed, like, this is no longer you being at home. You physically get out and you do those things that you normally do to keep that routine. You have to get into that mindset. It's very important to get into that mindset. You need to set priorities. By that I mean, your important things first. Whether it's super urgent and important, you take care of that first, and then if something that you can delegate or respond to it later during the day, you can. So going through that priority list and being proactive, setting up that one-on-one time with your manager. You need to make sure that you identify your distractors, right? So managers and you need to make sure that you have your one-on-one time scheduled, your one-on-one meetings, your weekly meetings. Some managers like it for the new hires to meet like once a day, just to make sure they do that check-in. As you start progressing, once a week is okay. And that's fine too, but make sure that you connect with them once a week so that they are aware of how you are progressing. There is no surprise, like after a month they're like, oh, you were supposed to do this, and you're like, well, I didn't know. So there is no miscommunications, right? Because it's really hard to manage that miscommunication when you work through. And identifying your distractors. So that is a very big thing. So before I start my work, I am fortunate that I have the luxury to go into my office room, close the doors, and make sure that everybody understands that when the doors are closed, I am not coming out. This is my work. And when it's work, there are no distractors. My dog cannot come inside this room. My kids cannot come running in saying I'm hungry. That routine of waking up, doing my things that I need to set up myself for a successful day, that's why is very important. There are times, at least right now, when people don't have that luxury of kids being in the school. They are at home. So how do you define that boundaries, right? If I am folding clothes right now, talking to you, it's quite distracting. Sometimes I do have to do that, and that may be okay in these current times because we all are in the same boat. The playing field is leveled. Your child is also running around. My child is also running around. Doesn't mean that it's a free flow, but we can give that as a pass. That I understand that this is a different situation. you don't have childcare. Some of us don't have the luxury to go into a different room, right? It may be that our real estate is so premium so that we just can't go into a different room. So define an area, whether it's a small table or whatever, that when you sit there, people just cannot come and disturb you, like what's in for cooking, or your neighbor just comes in for tea. You can't do that, because that is your work area. When you sit there, this is a dedicated space. Once you're out of it physically, then people can disturb you, or you're away. You should have some kind of communication, or some kind of a method that tells your family that this is a no disturb zone, right? It's very important to do that. There are apps that you can download, the Focus app, Freedom app, that kind of blocks certain applications like Pinterest and Facebook on your phone for a certain particular given amount of time, so that you don't get disturbed. Use what is it called, time management. I'm forgetting the screen time on your phones, to limit your distractions over the phones as much as possible. Have a blocked time. So the concept of Benjamin Franklin, who said that have blocked times to to maximize your productivity. Use that. In the next 2 hours, you're going to do X, Y, and Z, and you're not going to get disturbed. When you are at work and you need heads down time, right? When you need heads down time, you just want to focus. You don't want to attend in a meeting, or you don't want your team members pinging you for something. On your status, most of us use chat at work. On your status, just say busy, do not disturb, or available after 2 p.m., or busy from 1 to 3, something like that, which is not obnoxious, but it tells people that you are busy right now. And if it's urgent, they can ping you. Otherwise, as soon as they hover over your name, they know that you're busy from 1 to 3. Make sure that your calendar also reflects that. If they're setting up a meeting and there is a block time 1 to 3, unless it's very, very urgent for them, they can wait until 3 o'clock to set up that meeting for you, right? Communication, communication, communication. When you are virtually working, you don't have the luxury to just lean over and ask somebody, right? You can't. It requires a special effort from you to make sure that people understand who you are, what you're doing, and a lot of onus is on you. You need to define your boundaries. Use your available calendar, status, applications, things like that, to make sure that you are able to communicate people what you are doing when you're available. If you're taking a break, say for example, you need to have a lunch break, or you need to have a bio break, you need to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
Instead of just say BRB, sometimes that works, or just say that we'll be back in 15 minutes on your IM status. People understand that you need a bio break. Do not schedule one thing. The understanding your burnout, I want to stress, I can't stop stressing this enough, is do not schedule back to back meetings. There is something called Zoom burnout. If you schedule back to back meetings, you're not setting yourself up for success. I have done that for myself, and I have held my bathroom for a long time. I'm not able to go, and then I'm hungry and just tired. It's not fair. After every meeting, give yourself break. Give a 10-minute break. I have a rule with my team members that all of our meetings would be 50 minutes. It's not going to be 60 minutes. So there is a 10-minute break time for all of us to just get up, stretch our legs, drink water, because at work
Freshen up.
yeah,
Yes.
at work we do that. We walk away from a meeting before going to a second meeting, which is on a different floor or even on the same floor. You go to the bathroom, you take a break, you talk to your coworker, and it's
Healthy
okay.
mind is going to make you proactive at the end of the day. That's what is going to charge up your batteries. So I think
Yes,
that's a very valid point. Yes,
yes.
absolutely.
And there is something called Zoom burnout, because you're looking at the screen for so long, your
Yes.
eyes really hurt. They do. It's not a matter of being young or old, because my son sometimes makes fun of me. He's like, "Mom, you're old, your eyes hurt." I'm like, "No." And then it started to happen to him because he has online school. So he's connected online without any break. And that's what happens to him. His head hurts. It's just is, right?
Yeah.
Be transparent. When you have too many things back to back schedule, you have so much going on at home. If you're getting overwhelmed, talk to your managers. Be transparent. Say that things are overwhelming, because what is happening is, um, even though people are working from home, and we find like, oh, I can just sleep extra 1 hour, and instead of logging on at 7 o'clock, because I used to get out for commuting, I'm going to get up at 8, and then I'm going to start working. So that 1 hour of commute time, or actually physically stepping out, we are not utilizing them for our mental strength, for our relaxation, right? So there is, and people are working 2 3 hours extra, so they log in a little bit late, but then, sorry, they log in a little bit early and they log off at the same time. So now your day is stretched for like 9 10 hours, and you don't take a break, and there is burnout. You're not that productive. Nobody has an attention span of 10 hours. It's scientifically impossible. You're not designed for that, right? You cannot be productive.
Absolutely.
So if things like that are happening, take a step back and tell your people, tell your team, tell your managers, and say, I have a burnout, I need some time, or I'm not going to log in at this time. Or even if you do want to log in at this time, give that 1 hour instead of commute time, go to yoga. That helps. Don't log into work early. Be productive, because if you are able to do your work faster, instead of taking 2 hours, if you take 1 hour to accomplish something, that's way productive than you being online, not being able to complete your commitments. That's unfair to everybody, right? Have clarity on your outcomes that you're wanting to drive. So, as virtually, when we are together, it's really important to make sure that you. Um, so, let me take a step back and say this, like in IT, most people have something called daily stand-ups, or you have daily connects, right? And you talk about what I accomplished yesterday, what I'm trying to accomplish today. And you share about things, and you talk about like, I need help for blah things, and people volunteer to do that. That similar concept isn't shouldn't be restricted to IT, right? That can be dragged into every team, whichever, whether you're a finance team, or an accounting team, or even manufacturing, whoever you are, you can take that concept and make sure that you have clarity of what I'm trying to drive, and when I'm going to accomplish what I'm going to accomplish today, or accomplish by the end of this week. Because most often, to be honest to you, there are some micromanagers, I'm not saying that, but most managers want to make sure that you meet your commitment, you get your stuff done. How you get it done, when you get it done, not my problem. But you said Saturday, that means you said Saturday, and I want some stuff to be done by Saturday, right? So make sure you have that clarity. If there is difficulty that you're not going to reach earlier than that, speak up. Maybe on Wednesday you kind of feel like, I won't be able to do this by Saturday. Tell them early enough, share it with your team. People most of the time are ready to help their team members, because we all succeed as a team. There are dependencies on each other's work. And at the end of the day, when you're done, really log off and go home. By what I mean is that when I get off from my meetings, I step out of this office, I don't come back in this office until next morning, because I'm out. This is my way of saying I'm done for today. So whatever your dedicated work uh, area is, just walk away from there and don't log back into your emails from your phone. Don't look into your pings. Just stop doing that. Really log off, disconnect. Because once you disconnect, and then when you come back fresh. Otherwise, you carry baggage, and there is baggage of work in your life, and you can't disconnect, and things just start becoming jumbled, and nobody likes an uncomfortable family member. Everybody's uncomfortable with them. So it's really important to just go home. So that was my spiel.
Wonderful. I think you have highlighted some very crucial work ethics and principles that we all need to sort of imbibe in our daily lives, which is going to be helpful in order to be more productive and more worth it to adapt to the new normal. And I think that was required. A lot of people fail to realize, they fail to introspect what are the things they need to put in from their end. So that was really nicely illustrated, giving your own example. And I really appreciate you being so disciplined and maintaining work ethics in your house. So thank you once again for
Sure.
throwing light on that. Right now we have some questions coming in already from our viewers and participants.
Sure.
Let's get on to that. If you could address some of them. What are the challenges faced by freshers and old employees in COVID-19 to work in better way? What is your take on it?
So it's a very broad answer. It's like it's a very it's not something that can be wrapped up in a few sentences, right? So it doesn't matter whether you have been in a company for a long time or whether you're just entering your work environment now. You may be 20 years or you may be 50 years. We are all in the same boat, right? We're all working virtually. We see the problems of virtual work are the same, the burnouts, the log offs. There are some questions or there are some old schools of thought that, oh, I don't know what Prajakta is working on. Maybe just she's just sitting and watching Netflix all day. Right? There may be things like that. It doesn't matter whether you're old or young. It's just a mindset, right? People, it's just a different way of thinking. So it's very important that the point that I was highlighting was that it's very important to make sure the outcomes that you're trying to drive. We all use cloud. There are so many other collaboration tools out there. One thing that I do want to make, what we do or what we instill at work is we have this open document in Excel. You can use Word. You don't have to be fancy. It's just a way of communicating, or even SharePoint for that matter. It's just a way of communicating what are my goals for today, and I'm going to be achieving this. Or if you don't want to do that, you just say that by end of this week I'm going to be doing this, and that's it. And you can have that weekly or daily kind of stand up for 15 minutes where you can share that as a team. You can share that I accomplished this yesterday and this is what I'm planning to work on, and I have no issues. I think most of the time if you just share that and your team members are able to understand this language, and this is a team norm, right? You may suggest that and the team may come up with something like, oh, how about we share it at this time and these things. So as a team you need to come up with that, what that collaboration looks like, and share your amongst about yourselves. You can't do anything about people's mentality, but you can bring in transparency. And sometimes it's important to just ask them up front, what do you want from us? Do you have better ideas? Because you're all open to ideas, nobody's pushing back. Sorry, you were
so
saying
I think
something?
setting certain I was saying, one second, I think I'm having network issue. I'm saying setting certain work standards and protocols and setting certain achievable targets is what is going to reduce sluggishness and
Correct.
increase productivity, is what you're trying to imply.
Correct. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
That rules of engagement within the team is really important.
Can't hear you.
No, I said the rules of engagement, the team norms, is very important. It's very important that we all speak the same language and we all use the same collaboration tools and we all have the same guardrails. Then we are able to have that better communication within each other. Make sense?
Wonderful. Wonderful. We have Manasvi Mewada from ACBM Global Mentor Academy. Hi, Manasvi. And she is here to ask a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Fine. So my question is, what is your take on work-life balance post-COVID, with in context to virtual employment?
So this is also like a really, really hard question. It's a very tricky topic. Actually, it's a hard one to answer. In the most recent future, and I'm not just saying 3 months, 6 months. I think for the next 2, 3 years, things are going to be different. I don't. I mean, even for the next 10 years, and I could be pessimistic, but I don't think we'll ever go back to what our prior normal was, because we have gotten used to certain ways and we will have to change certain things, right? The COVID-19 has changed a lot of dynamics. We'll have very different new norms, new expectations, and new models for socialization, even with interacting with our coworkers and networking, right? It's going to be fundamentally changed forever. Every organization will have to do an assessment for their employers, and they'll have to learn. I mean, some people will have to come back to work. Some people may decide, or the companies may decide, like 40% of my workforce can work from home and the rest of them need to show up, right? They'll have to have this, you'll have to have a plan to establish what this looks like. Any plans that we establish should be based on the understanding of the concerns that matter most to our teams and our business and the organizational strategy, right? um, Work life balance is a hard thing. Almost everybody, there is no silver bullet. When you work in a large conglomerate, in a large company, it is really hard to, even whether COVID or not, it's really hard to have a work life balance when you have teams that are globally diverse. So like I had a team, at one point I was working for a company, and my team were in India, in UK, and of course on the east side of US. So three different time, and I'm on the west coast. So our teams were so globally divided, geographically diverse. It was very hard for us to manage the timelines, right? Somebody was always complaining either it's too early or too late. It's getting into the family time. So we need to come together as a team and define what those core hours might be, where we are all available. Like, you when you go to college and you have office hours, and you can go talk to your professors for, like, between 3 to 5, and you have all your questions answered at that time, and everybody knows that that professor is going to be available for answering the questions. So things like that, you'll have to work within your team, within your organization, with your leaders, to define what that normal is for your company. You can get inspiration from other companies who you think have done well. You can learn from them, you can talk to them. There are many white papers published. There was once, we were trying to implement a particular a solution using SAP in Boeing, and we had to go talk to Starbucks because they had implemented that solution. We went to Starbucks, we discussed with them, with their HR professionals, like, we are trying to implement this particular thing. We heard you guys did this. Can you explain, like, what were the issues you went through? How did you develop things? What kind of resources you needed? And they were very happy to share that, because essentially, if you think about it, we all are going to have the same problem eventually, the same thing. And we are all trying to do the right thing by our employees and employers. So it's great to share things with each other and figure out what that happy medium is for you. I know it's not a silver bullet answer, but that's the best way to solve that work-life balance problem.
That's
Wonderful.
brilliant. Yeah. So, ma'am, my next question is that how is employee motivation taken care of through virtual employment?
So this is this is another tricky one, right? You and I are away from each other. We cannot have a cup of coffee together, right? A lot of times people are doing virtual lunches. People are doing virtual happy hours. People also have um, done something like, bring in humor to the team. Bringing in humor in the sense that, we start our meetings with like, today I woke up and I want to be Wonder Woman. What do you think you want to be? And we go through that whole circle of what do you want to be today? And some people just say, I just want to be a pumpkin because I'm just tired. And that's okay. Just bring in that humanity, that connection. The other way to motivate is be compassionate, right? We are all human beings, we're all in the same boat. Whether COVID or not, if you're working virtually with employees, and your coworkers, it's very important to have that human connection. Send out emails to each other. As HR leaders, send out emails to your team, um, you know in a gratuitous note that you understand what they're going through. It's difficult time. Everybody's working hard. Recognize that. People work because we want money, right? Nobody's working for charity for free because we have XYZ obligations. Money works, but at the same time, we want recognition more than money, right?
Absolutely.
I am putting in effort, you're putting in effort. We want to recognize each other's effort. So send that email to people, recognize, say thank you. There are times when people or teams have, like managers have sent, I think they've sent like a Starbucks card to their team members. It's a pleasant surprise. You go to your mailbox and you just get a $5 Starbucks card. It's not too much money, right? But it's just a surprise, like, oh, I got this from work. It's so sweet. They recognize that I work hard. Have that, it's important to do that. Employees do get motivated and keep the communication transparent. So a lot of companies are going through downsizing, right? A lot of companies are furloughing employees, I'm sorry. So keep that community. Don't create panic by saying, oh, changes are coming, and don't stop in that sentence, mid sentence, and walk away. That's not what I'm saying. But definitely keep the communication transparent that we'll be furloughing for some time. So you'll have your benefits, but you may not get paid. Changes are coming. We are trying to define strategies in a way that you don't create panic, but keep the communications transparent and open. Because just imagine if I just tell you today, I'm going to lay you off. It's a very sad thing, right? And you'll be like, where did this come from? Why didn't you tell me before? You have so many questions. So keep that communication very, very open. Be transparent. People respect that. Sorry, I kind of rambled on and on about it,
No,
but it's my favorite topic.
that was
I think
wonderful.
the gestures, the healthy gestures, always help in feeling appreciated for whatever you do, and that really counts in order to add on more self-esteem in employees. That's how you're going to build up your bonding and healthy rapport. So I
True.
think that was very nicely addressed. Thank you so much. I think we are running out of time, but we would like you to answer some questions from the YouTubers, which are already
Okay.
mentioned in the chat box below. One second, I'm just going to read them. Uh, what, according to you, will be more impactful in future, a virtual interview or the job face-to-face interview?
Um, I don't think I can say. See, I am more of a touchy-feely human person. So to me, a personal interaction is personal interaction is very important, and that's just me. But I think it depends on the job. It depends on the company, and it depends on the situation. I think a combination works fine. Majority of the time, I think a hybrid is better than one or the other. But if the situation doesn't permit, say I'm expanding my company to come to India, um, I can't be in India for every interview, right? I could be there for a month, 2 months, maybe 6 months, but I can't be there for each of my employees when I'm interviewing them. I may need to be virtual, or they may need to speak to somebody here with whom they need to collaborate very often. So virtual, a hybrid of it might be the best thing. But my personal would be, if I can give a personal touch, I would be right there.
Yeah.
Nothing can replace human interaction.
All right. I think that was very nicely addressed. As we all know that HR is not only about recruitment. There are many options to go with, like training and development, onboarding, payroll, and many more. So how will this be affected post COVID-19? What is your perspective?
Um, True. HR is not just recruiting, right? HR is a very important leg in the organization. And I'm going to be very honest with you. Initially, that's what I used to think too. HR money, I just go to the HR and say I want this person, or I want someone like this, and I have an opening in my team. Or what are my benefits? I'm going to take a day. I'm going to be like, I need to take maternity, days off or things like that. It was just this, and then just I would just go back, and that's it. That is what my perception was. It's not just post COVID or during COVID. It's the mindset of understanding that HR is a part of management. They work with the management to define what the culture is, what the strategy is, where we are going from here. Like you had learning and development, right? What is
Mhm.
our strategy? We want to go, say, for example, we want to go, let's take Microsoft's example. When Satya said we are going all cloud, right? Cloud first. Well, we had to work with HR to define what the learning and development strategy of the employees can be. We just can't say we all go cloud today and bam, everything is done. No, we need to have the right training and skills, right? We need to have the right resources. We may need to expand the jobs that we have, or we may need to contract the jobs that we have. We may need to adjust the titles because our strategy is whatever, XYZ. So thinking just HR is recruiting is a very narrow perspective. And I think most people who don't understand the impact of HR or how it's done, because a lot of times HR is in the background, right? You only interface with your manager who goes to the HR for XYZ questions, and that's it. Or when you're at appraisal time or getting the bonus time, that's when you see the HR. It's not just that. They do quite more than just giving you a bonus or bringing you in for the company. So I don't know if I directly gave the answer, but I
No, I think
recognize that HR is way more than what they are.
I think you've cleared a lot of notions and myths, which are built around the topic, because there's a normal assumption that people have. People tend to perceive the HR to be the person who's only responsible for the recruitment. They're just confined to one place, and like that's their job. They don't really get involved. So it was very imperative to know more about the role of the HR. I would want to understand about the new hires, people who are newbies who've just joined in and they don't have much of an experience or exposure. How are they finding the whole virtual era to get acquainted with?
I think that is something that you should ask them. Okay, that was a very lame answer, but the new people, they have one leg up than most of the others, is that they're more comfortable with the technology, right? I come from a generation of the dial-up era to what it is right now, whereas my kids have always seen Wi-Fi, right? So they
Yeah.
don't know what that might be. What is the interruption? They get frustrated when our Wi-Fi doesn't work and it drops in the middle of their session, what that is. So I'm not comparing a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old with a 20-year-old, but what I'm trying to say is that the newer generation has been exposed to a different era of connectivity. They are a little bit more comfortable with connecting to technology and interacting. They have always seen Instagram, they've always seen Facebook. They are more in tune with TikTok videos, right?
Hmm.
Their attention span may be a little bit questioned because of the constant stimulation of the constant stimulation of watching TV or having Netflix and Amazon on their hands, but they are a little bit more comfortable. The hard part is for them to create that the tightness in a group, right? When we are together, there is a cohesiveness in a group that is difficult and requires more work when you are virtual. We can all get up and go for coffee, or we can just say, let's meet in the break room and let's just chat about 15 minutes, and we get closer like that. That water cooler hangout is missing right now when they enter into the workforce. And we may want to create that virtually, but I think there is still something there is something to be said for the human interaction, right? When I go to a doctor, they see my reports. So I'll give you my example. Recently I had to see a doctor. They are able to see my blood test virtually, right? They can see through the report. She even had that virtual, I had a virtual meeting with her and she was able to see me. But touching my arm and seeing my pulse, checking my temperature, that's missing, although the diagnosis was correct. But there is still something to be said about that human interaction. And I know it's hard. I empathize with that, and I know it's hard. We may have to come up with a hybrid approach, where we may just meet with a social distancing coffee if time and situations permit. But we may have to come up with that approach to create that cohesiveness.
I think that was very nicely, explained. Thank you for being so gracious and such an amazing orator, and for having an absolutely, infectious vibe. I love the aura that you carry. You've been really, really wonderful, an absolute sporty. It was absolute pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for being part of the conversation. We truly look forward to seeing you very soon again. And for all our participants, do drop in your valuable feedback. We'll be sending you the link for the forms. We do have another session happening. We are going to be introducing Global Marketing Exposition 2020, which starts from 29th of May. You will be getting the details very shortly. So till then, keep on focusing to soar to greater heights, and be associated with ACBM Global Mentor Academy, where we truly believe in making a difference in these difficult times to help you enhance your career better. On that note, this is your host, Prajakta Bhagat, signing off. Shalini, it was wonderful talking to you. Absolute delight once again.
Thank you,
Please take care of yourself and stay safe.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.